President Putin says from Ankara that President al-Assad is greatly supported by the Syrians and that Russia will not allow the terrorist organizations to take control in Syria and Iraq. The inhabitants of Ain al-Arab continue to confront the terrorist organizations' aggressions, inflicting on them huge losses. Iraqi troops liberate new areas in Al-Anbar from ISIL terrorists and continue their operations to defeat them in other areas. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Yarado Krikorian with the news in English. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that President Bashar al-Assad is greatly supported by the Syrians themselves and that Russia will not allow the terrorist organizations to take control in Syria and Iraq or chaos to spread there. During a press conference with his Turkish counterpart, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Putin said the elections in Syria have proved the great support President al-Assad enjoys. He added that solutions must be found that are acceptable to all the components of the Syrian people, referring to differences between Russia and Turkey over certain issues. President Putin also affirmed that Russia exercises no pressure on the Syrian government and does not seek to do so. He called on all states to create acceptable circumstances for re-establishing peace and security in Syria. Erdogan, who seemed confused, admitted that Russia, Iran and Turkey shoulder a responsibility in ending the crisis, adding that the two sides agree on combating terrorism. In relation to Erdogan's flagrant intervention in Egyptian internal affairs and his continued lies about the situation there, the Egyptian foreign minister described as rash the statements he made during the press conference he held in Ankara yesterday with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. The foreign ministry criticized the statements as reflecting ignorance, hooliganism and lack of awareness of facts, as well as insistence on living in illusions, letting his personal stance and narrow ideological viewpoints take the hold of him. Deputy Foreign and Expatriates Minister, Chairman of the National Committee of the Chemical Weapons Prohibition Agreement, Dr. Faisal al-Miqdad, has said that getting rid of all the weapons of mass destruction and preventing access to them by the terrorist organizations is a collective responsibility that should be earnestly sought, particularly in the Middle East region, which requires a serious international move to free the Middle East from all such weapons. Dr. Miqdad added that this will not be realized unless Israel, the only side in the region that has not joined the international agreement on prohibiting weapons of mass destruction, is made to join such agreement. This was included in the statement delivered by Dr. al-Miqdad, head of the Syrian Arab Republic's delegation to the opening session of the 18th cycle of the Conference of the States that are signatories to the Chemical Weapons Prohibition Agreement, which opened in the Dutch city, The Hague. Al-Miqdad added that Syria is taking part in this conference for the second time after its historical decision to join the agreement and following the end of the extraordinary efforts made to destroy the Syrian chemical weapons, which represented a huge, important and unprecedented step in the history of this organization or of any of the states that are signatories to the agreement. This reflects, Dr. al-Miqdad added, a joint success by the Syrian Arab Republic and the Chemical Weapons Prohibition Organization. The conference had opened with a statement made by Director General of the organization, Ambassador Ahmed Uzumju, in which he praised the ongoing cooperation between Syria and the organization and the essential progress realized by Syria in fulfilling its commitments according to the agreement. The inhabitants of Ain al-Arab and the People's Defense Units continue to confront ISIL aggressions, eliminating 40 terrorists during the battles that took place on several fronts and destroying many of their weapons and vehicles. The People's Defense Units have meanwhile continued to advance on Aleppo Road southwest of the city, killing a number of terrorists and recovering a strategic position in the city's outskirts. The battles have grown fiercer, particularly near the borders with Turkey, as the Turkish authorities continue to offer support to the terrorists. However, all their schemes have been thwarted due to the people's steadfastness and ongoing resistance that has so far lasted for 77 days. Turkish websites have circulated videos showing the return of more than 400 Syrian immigrants from Turkey to Syria. Turkish news media have affirmed that thousands of Syrian immigrants wish to return home, particularly after security has been restored in many places following the Syrian Arab Army's elimination of terrorists in many areas, in addition to the increasing national reconciliation in several cities, thus encouraging citizens to go back home and live their ordinary life. On the sidelines of the 7th meeting of the Asian Parliamentary Assembly in Pakistan, in which the Syrian delegation took part, Speaker of the People's Assembly Muhammad Jihad al-Laham held a meeting with the Vice Speaker of the Cambodian National Committee, Nyon Hill, and discussed the situation in Syria and means of fighting terrorism, which is supported by regional and Western countries. The two sides asserted the importance of boosting bilateral relations, especially the parliamentary ones, and focused on the necessity of coordination on both regional and international levels. Vice Speaker of the Cambodian National Committee renewed his country's stance that no one in the world has the right to interfere in the internal affairs of any sovereign country, asserting that the Syrian people only have the right to decide on their future, and as long as the Syrian president and parliament are directly elected by the people, then no one has the right to interfere in Syria's internal affairs. In Iraq, the Iraqis supported by the tribesmen from Al-Anbar liberated several villages near Al-Bunumar area in Al-Anbar from ISIS terrorists. In Salah ad-Din, the army eliminated 150 ISIS terrorists and destroyed 6 vehicles in the vicinity of Tikrit University. They killed 9 other terrorists in an airstrike that targeted their hideout in Aziz Balad area, south of Tikrit. Iraqi armed forces continued military operations in different parts of Salah ad-Din and in Al-Huz area in Al-Anbar to purge them completely from ISIS terrorists. In occupied Palestine, Israeli settlers supported by Israeli forces of occupation stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque from the area of Bab al-Maghariba. Palestinian sources said 4 groups of settlers stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque and conducted provocative tours in its yards, and the Israeli occupation forces seized the identity cards of the Palestinians who were inside. In the West Bank, Israeli forces of occupation carried out a series of raids and search operations in a number of towns, arresting 14 Palestinians. Finally, Libyan army said it has maintained control over Al-Assa camp southwest of Zawara city near the capital Tripoli. Meanwhile, the Libyan Air Force continued to strike the gatherings and hideouts of the terrorists in Zawara. In Benghazi, the Libyan army killed the terrorist Muhammad al-Uraibi, one of the leaders of the extremist organization so-called Shura Council of Benghazi rebels, arresting 14 of his followers west of the city. With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region, and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business at market news with Nariman Qassam, but after a short break.